Thank you, everyone, for participating in our fall Ohigan seminar. We anticipate hearing a very meaningful presentation by Reverend Harry Bridge on the topic of Buddhist values, which follows up on his Ohigan seminar from 1 year ago. I'm Jim Pollard, Director of the Buddhist Education Center. Reverend John Turner is managing the Zoom meeting today. First, a few technical matters. When Reverend Bridge begins his presentation, we will mute all the participants and we will disable the chat function. After the presentation, there will be time for your questions and comments, and I believe we're going to turn the chat back on at that time. It may be easiest for you to see Reverend Bridge and his slides if you select Speaker View in Zoom. Speaker View is typically found in the upper right corner of your screen. That's it for the technical aspects. I will introduce our speaker in a moment. Could I first ask Reverend Dr. Mutsumi Wondra to lead the opening gassho?
Thank you, Jim. Join me gassho, please. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda.
Thank you, Sensei. Harry Gyokyo Bridge is the resident minister of the Buddhist Church of Oakland. While growing up, he lived in both the United States and Japan, but he did not encounter Buddhism until college. Eventually, he went on to study it at graduate school in both Berkeley and Kyoto. His first temple assignment was the Buddhist Church of Lodi. Since 2009, he has been the resident minister of the Buddhist Church of Oakland. He teaches at the Institute of Buddhist Studies in Berkeley, and he is chairperson of the Ministers Association of the BCA. I will now turn it over to Sensei.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. It's nice to be back. Hard to believe it was a year ago. In some ways, it seems like yesterday. In other ways, I can barely remember what I talked about. But it is, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to present to you again. We're calling this Buddhist Values Part 2. So last year, I was kind of looking, I found a PowerPoint from last year and all the slides were blank. So I guess I didn't use it. But I think the main topics that I talked about last year were the traditional, what do you call it? Ohigan time topic of the 6 paramitas, and then also the 3 poisons and the middle way. 6 paramitas, quick review. Grandpa delivers pizza every Monday and Wednesday, right? Giving, discipline, patience, effort, meditation, and wisdom. And, often we present those at Ohigan time, and it sounds like, wow, it sounds like I should do dana to be a bodhisattva. I should have perfect effort and perfect patience and awaken, do meditation and awaken wisdom. But then you're like, wait a second, am I not Jodo Shinshu? We don't meditate really. Are we talking about awakening wisdom during my daily life and being selfless? And so it's kind of confusing. So I think one of the main takeaways I hope from last year was that rather than understand those as practices, which they normally are for bodhisattvas to become Buddhas, for Jodo Shinshu Buddhists, where our practice is Nembutsu and living our daily life, right? And listening to the call of Amida Buddha. And yet the 6 paramitas, I think, are still important values for us. Right? We're living our daily lives with these values of the 6 paramitas as our ideals, right? And maybe as something to strive for, something to measure myself against. But I don't understand them as practices that I personally undertake. And so thinking about them as values is something I've been thinking about for the past couple of years. Another set of values, the 3 poisons, desire, anger, and ignorance. And you're like, what do you mean values? And it's like, well, we understand these as harmful, right? And that's, I think, really important to know as Buddhists, right? That rampant greed and desire and just attachment, right, are the things that prevent us from becoming enlightened. Anger, hatred, aversion, right? Those are can be harmful both to myself and to others. And ignorance, right? To realize, ignorance, whether ignorance of worldly things, or more importantly, ignorance of Buddha's teachings, right? Those are the things that keep us mired in samsara. Those are the things that keep us suffering and cause suffering for others as well. And so again, though, to me, my path is not to try and remove all desire, to try and never get angry, to try and get rid of ignorance. I just can't do it. I can maybe do it in little small batches, but it's when I'm stressed, when something unexpected happens, that my buttons get pushed, right? Whether it's the desire button or the anger button, right? That those do get pushed. In Jodo Shinshu, it's okay, right? But when it happens, to try and realize it, right? To try and be aware of that. Oh, there goes the anger button again, right? Oh, my desire button got pushed once again, right? Learn from it. It's okay. We're human. We're made up of these. And so then one of my favorite Buddhist teachings, the middle way, that I'm going to talk about again today. Middle way, I don't think is often associated with Ohigan, but that's one of the things I keyed into early in my ministerial career. The idea that day and night are equal now, right? There's this balance in nature. And often that's expressed as, this is when the other shore is closest. But to me, no, it's nature modeling the middle way for me, right? So that this teaching, this basic Buddhist teaching of the middle way that can be applied to so many things and is very flexible and we can see being reinterpreted in the Buddhist tradition itself, right, is one of my favorite teachings. I'll let you know, I've had a YouTube channel for a long time. It's Gyokyo48. And I've started trying to use it again. And it's something I've wanted to do for years, trying to utilize, social media, right? To try and spread the teachings. So I've been trying to record just little messages. They're not Dharma talks. They're just me talking about Buddhism. And I recorded one yesterday where I'll go out on a limb and say, as much as I identify as a Jodo Shinshu Buddhist, as a Shin Buddhist, I think I'm also a middle way Buddhist. And middle way is not a specific school. Well, Madhyamaka kind of calls itself middle way, but I'm not calling myself a Madhyamaka. I'm calling myself just middle way, right? That I find middle way so relevant and such a great way to interact with the Buddhist teachings and my life. So I'm going to try to put that up today, but I've been really busy, so it might not get up till the end of the weekend or even the beginning of the week. So that's the review of last time. Today, I think I did it last time too, again, to just think about values in general, right? Just values. And I think I did this last year too, but I was trying to think of more values. So for me personally, when I thought about what are my values, not as a Buddhist, but just me, a value that I hold very dearly is diversity. I feel like I embody diversity, being a multiracial person. Also having lived in the United States and Japan, I've benefited so much from encountering other cultures. As a student at IBS and GTU, Institute of Buddhist Studies, which is part of Graduate Theological Union, getting to interact with other Buddhists and people from other religions, so important for me. I learned so much from other people, learning other languages or struggling, trying to learn other languages, and realizing, wow, so much of my culture is informed by language and values that I'm not totally unaware of. That I am totally unaware of. So to encounter other cultures, to get these other viewpoints is really important. And I think diversity is just so important. I'm partial to Honda. I drive a Honda Civic. I don't know why. Growing up, my dad had a Ford early on, and then I think we had Toyota Corolla. This is back in the 80s, or late 80s, 90s. I drove a Nissan Sentra for a long time, but when I started buying cars, I got a Honda, and I like it. I got another Honda. This is my second Civic. So I'm partial to Honda. Is that a value, right? Is brand loyalty a value? I think it can be in our capitalist society, right? That these brand values are Pepsi, No thanks. I only drink Coke. It's kind of dumb when you think about it, but it's real in a way too, right? That so much of our culture is built around brands, right? And sports teams maybe too. I'm not into sports at all, but if you are, right, that may be a sports team, right? Up here, it's all what, Giants and Warriors. I don't care. So it's like my sports loyalties are like Celtics and Red Sox only because I grew up in Boston, but I actually don't care. But I know it's really important. I'm saying bad words, right? Like Giants. I know it's Dodgers down there and Lakers or whatever, right? I really don't know a lot about it, but I think those are values too. You put the flag on your car. You wear the clothes. You're telling people, I'm a fan of this team, right? So I think that those are values too that we hold in our modern life. I'm generally liberal, maybe a wannabe progressive. I'm not sure if I really want to be, but I think I do actually hold somewhat progressive values, just maybe not. I'm certainly not an activist. I don't hold activist values, but I'm certainly liberal. And yet, growing up, my dad, he wasn't in the Air Force, but he worked for a nonprofit or not-for-profit that contracted to the Air Force a lot. So I exist because of the U.S. Air Force and because of JASDEF, the Japan Air Self-Defense Force, JIETAI, right? If it weren't for them, my father would never have gone to Japan and met my mother. I wouldn't have been born. I got to live in Japan in the 80s during the bubble, right? And I got a great education going to the American school in Japan, a private institution that I got, I think, a much better schooling than I would have gotten if I'd been public school back in Massachusetts. So I was on the edge of the military in a way, right? We got to go to the Sanno Hotel. We'd go to the Yokota Air Force Base or Yokosuka Naval Base, to the PX and that kind of thing. I had pictures of U.S. and Japanese jet fighter planes on my walls, and so as much as I'm liberal, I also have that kind of background of a kind of military background, and I don't think they're mutually exclusive, right? So that, I think, military is another value that you may hold. I'm also influenced by Frank Zappa. He's a musician and cultural figure of the 60s, 70s, and 80s and 90s. I think at one time I held somewhat libertarian views, I think, or I thought I did, partly because of Frank Zappa. And so I found a quote that has always resonated with me when he's talking about people doing weird things. This is in one of his songs. And then he says, hey, it's the 20th century. Whatever you can do to have a good time, let's get on with it, so long as it doesn't cause a murder. Right? As long as you're not hurting someone else, do what you want. That's, I think, kind of an American value, maybe, right? Maybe it's that kind of libertarian American. I mean, I know that's kind of taking on different connotations in the culture, the kind of climate, the cultural climate we have now, but that certainly is an influence on me. Right? So these are some of the values I thought of for myself that I hold that may not have anything to do with Buddhism. But I think it's important to tease those out for yourself. What are your values? Right? Some you may know, some you may hold very strongly, but others maybe you're not so aware of. Right? And I think as a Buddhist, I think it's good to be aware of who I am, what influences me, why do I do the things I do, why do I like the stuff I like, right? Why do I make the decisions I make? And they might be related to your values. So I thought, so think about that for yourself. Cultural values, ethnic values, right? I know that our temples are strongly Japanese culture, Japanese American culture. But that, even that though, what does that mean? Japanese culture changes. Japanese American culture changes, right? And so at the same time, I might be like, yeah, I have these values as a Japanese person. Do you know what Japanese values are? Have you studied it? Or is it stuff that are as part, it's a big area. So I think questioning values we think we hold is a good thing too. Learning more about it, right? So that's just talking about values in general. I like the Japanese term, kachikan. Kachi is value, but it just means like, this pen cost me, what, 80 cents. So is the pen's value 80 cents? Well, I'm going to have a hard time selling it, but I really like it. So maybe it has a lot of value to me. Right? Someone gave it to me. So the value is priceless, to use another commercial thing, right? Kan is view. So kachi kan. What is your view on value? What do you value? Right? What kind of things do you think are important in life? So 6 paramitas, 3 poisons, middle way from last year. I'm trying to decide which way to go, because what I'm going to talk about tomorrow for the Dharma talk, I don't want to necessarily do the same thing. So I've got kind of 2 approaches that I want to look at. One is what I have, what's in the commercial, the poster, right? The advertising for this thing. And that is a couple or 3 acronyms, right? To think about more ways we might think for Buddhist values, right? How to live as a Buddhist. What's important as a Buddhist, as a Shin Buddhist. But I also kind of want to look at some of those more 3 poison style values, right? Recognizing what Buddhism says is harmful, right? Or maybe not values that we would hold as Buddhist. So you know what? Let's do the acronyms first. Okay, let's do the acronyms first. And I'll just kind of do them briefly, just kind of an overview, and then maybe look at those other things that are maybe not Buddhist values or Buddhist not values, we could call it, right? And then put them in the context of the acronyms. So how does that sound? Let's see. So I'm going to share my screen. So the first one I would like to share, you can see the AAA life up there on the screen, right? This is an acronym come up by that Reverend Dr. David Matsumoto came up with. He's currently the president of Institute of Buddhist Studies. For a long time, he was a professor at Institute of Buddhist Studies, one of my first teachers. When I went to Institute of Buddhist Studies, he was also a temple minister, Berkeley Buddhist Temple, Stockton Buddhist Temple. That's not his full biography, but he came up with this for Federation of Dharma School Teachers League at least 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago. So you may have heard of this, okay? The AAA life. The first A is awareness. The second one, authenticity. And the third one, appreciation. Isn't that great? So AAA life. How do I live as a Shin Buddhist? Well, maybe it's a life of awareness. Now, awareness of what? I'm not sure, right? And we can think about that. That's one thing that you can investigate, right? Is it mindfulness, like we might think of mindfulness meditation or something? Or is it a more awareness of myself? Is it awareness of Buddha's teachings? Is it awareness or bringing Buddha to mind? Right? These are all things that awareness could refer to. Authenticity. This is a rough one. I think this is the hardest one. What does that mean? Authenticity. To live an authentic life. What could that mean? And then appreciation. I like this one a lot. Appreciation. It's basically gratitude as an A word. Right? It's one way to think about it. Another way maybe to think about gratitude. Now, what I like about it, though, appreciation is interesting because appreciation also includes, I think, some awareness, right? And if we think of like music appreciation, that was my favorite class in elementary school. If you want to, that's another one of my values, just basically music. I love music. Music is so important to me. I was listening to music this morning as I was typing up this PowerPoint. I was listening to music in the car. I listen to music every day. I play music, I listen to music, right? But part of maybe because in elementary school, I took a music appreciation class. How do you appreciate music? She had us listen to a piece of music and said, what instruments can you hear? I don't think it was classical. I forget what kind of music it was. This is what, over 40 years ago. And yet I still kind of remember, right? I remember sitting in that class and her telling us, now let's listen to this music. Listen really carefully. What instruments do you hear? When you listen to music, usually you're not listening like that, I think, right? You're just listening to the lyrics or listening to the singer and the melody, but there's so much going on. And I think that listening deeper and realizing, oh, wow, this, they're using a really cool instrument here, the shamisen or a banjo or whatever, right? And then that deepens your appreciation of it, huh? Deepens your understanding of it. So that's one thing with words. In two, language, right? When we think about language, words can have multiple meanings. And to me, that's kind of fun, right? I think that's a good thing. But anyway, this AAA life, awareness, authenticity, and appreciation. Let's look at the next one. Fun. Right? Now you can tell it's an acronym because I put the dots, right? But fun, and this is by Reverend Yuki Sugahara. He is currently at the Oregon Buddhist Temple, but he was at the Florin Buddhist Temple before that. He's also a musician, and he also plays bass for both bass players, although he doesn't only play bass. But he's done some really nice reworkings of gathas, and I really appreciate him. And I appreciate this acronym that he came up with. This was his theme for 1 year, and I've remembered it, and I continue to use it. Friendship, understanding, nembutsu. How's that? That's pretty good, huh? Friendship, understanding, and nembutsu. Fun. That's the best part, right? I think sometimes temple seems like a chore. I gotta go to temple, especially for kids, right? You gotta wake up early on Sunday, on the weekend. Okay, Buddhism, yeah, whatever. I guess I gotta learn this stuff. No, it should be fun, right? And it's about friendship, right? And that's the best. That's a good part. If your kid, I guess, or your grandkid is like, do I have to go today? I'm so sleepy. It's like, you get to see your friends. I mean, I know we can't do that now in the pandemic, but hopefully when we get back to normal, you get to see your friends. It's not only for the kids either. I think that's what the 80, 90-year-olds want too, right? Friendship, the Sangha, and understanding. Here, understanding to me points to awareness. Right, is one way to understand it. But it could be understanding Buddhist teachings, right? It could be understanding myself. It could be understanding others. It could be understanding the world we live in, right? So many things. And then nembutsu. So good, right? That is one of the core parts of our life as Shin Buddhists. Namo Amida Butsu, the nembutsu. Bringing Buddha to mind, expressing our gratitude to Buddha. Even nembutsu means different things, huh? So let's go on to the third one. Now, this is one that I came up with, so I didn't put my name on here. The 3 Bs. Now, it might seem like a letter B, right? Which would make it more like an acronym, but it's actually BE, to be something. How do we want to be? Be aware. Be kind. Be yourself. Boom. I think be aware and be kind, right? Be aware is like the awareness or the understanding of the other two. Be kind is like the friendship of fun. But be yourself might sound kind of different. And maybe we haven't really heard that as part of Buddhism, right? I thought I was supposed to be better than myself. I thought I was supposed to be myself. I get angry. I thought I was supposed to not get angry, right? Be myself. I have desire. I thought I was supposed to let go of my attachments. Jodo Shinshu, I think it's a little different, right? And so I personally feel as a Jodo Shinshu Buddhist, be yourself is part of the message. So those are the 3 Bs. Now, these are the 3 acronyms that I kind of want to address, and I'll look at them more in detail, I think, tomorrow in my Dharma talk. But these really inform a lot of what I want to talk about today, too. The AAA life, right? Awareness, authenticity, and appreciation. Fun, right? With friendship, understanding, and nembutsu. I forgot to do the bold letter for all three of those. And the 3 B's. Be aware, be kind, and be yourself. Now, maybe I'm going to leave this one up because maybe I can talk about the middle way in the context of this one. Okay. This is not a commandment. This is not a command. Hey, you, be aware. What's your problem? You weren't being aware. Be aware. How could I say that to someone? I'm unaware and mindless so often. How could I command someone else, demand that someone else do that? So I don't see these as commands. But I also wouldn't say, yeah, don't be aware, it's fine. Don't be kind, you can be mean. Whatever, right? It's not that either, right? So to me, that's where middle way comes alive. One extreme is feeling like I have to be aware and be kind all the time. That's an extreme to me because it's impossible. Don't be aware, don't be kind, don't do these things. That's another extreme. No, I'm not going to say that. These are high. Another aspect of awareness and kindness, wisdom and compassion, right? Wisdom and compassion as the 2 aspects of Buddhahood. That's what a Buddha is. Buddha is manifesting wisdom, Buddha wisdom. That wisdom is not, maybe I'll take the screen down for a sec. That wisdom is not worldly wisdom. It doesn't mean, oh, I'm much older than you. I know more than you do, right? I've learned a lot about life. What you got to do it this way. That's not what it is. It's Buddha wisdom. Impermanence, interconnectedness, emptiness, oneness. Right? That the Buddha wisdom is what Buddha teaches, what Buddha experienced, Shakyamuni Buddha experienced, and is true Buddha itself is wisdom and compassion. That compassion is compassion for all beings. Right? That Buddha did not attain awakening and then just go away. Right? He stood up from under the tree and then went out and taught for like 50 years. So, right, if he didn't have compassion, if he only had wisdom, he wouldn't have been a Buddha. But no, he attained awakening, attained that wisdom, and taught others, cared for others. It's related to friendliness or that friendship, because we say compassion, but why don't I pull it? Well, no, I'm not going to pull up another screen. You'll have to watch the Japanese Dharma talk to get the screen. The Japanese term for compassion, that's technical term, is jihi. Jihi. Now, the interesting thing is ji is megumi. He is kanashi. It's really interesting. When you look at the 2 terms, the ji is the Chinese translation of maitri, the Sanskrit word, or metta. You might have heard of the metta meditation. That metta or maitri, loving kindness, friendliness, is one aspect of Buddha's compassion. And there's a text, there's a tradition that says it's the way the Buddha feels for beings the way a mother feels for her child. That's where the loving kindness comes in. It's not just like a friend, right? It's like the way a mother feels for her child. But then the second character, it's kanashi. And if you know Japanese, kanashi means sad. And you're like, what? What is that about? Well, it's karuna in Sanskrit. And the example, the second example, the maitri as the way a mother feels for her child. Karuna, this other aspect, is the way a mother feels for her sick child. It's really fascinating, huh? I probably talked about this last year too, but it's so good that you can hear it again and again and again, right? That kanashi, Buddha feels sad because he understands that beings are suffering, right? That I don't know if you ever knew Mr. Maeda. He would talk about empathy, right? That Buddha understands that beings are suffering. And so Buddha feels that suffering, I think, and has this sadness, knowing that beings are suffering. Right? Really, really amazing. Huh? And so knowing that, how could Buddha just, actually, we're all one. So there aren't actually beings there. They're actually all part of this emptiness. So I'm not going to do anything. No, right? That Buddha got up and taught. Buddha established Namo Amida Butsu, right? There's all these different ways to understand Buddha's compassion, that Buddha is coming to me. Right? Buddha's compassion is coming to me actively. Right? And so that friendliness and compassion, but it's this concern, are these two aspects of Buddha's compassion. Another one is kannon. I don't know if you've ever heard that word, kannon, right? Or kanzeon sometimes. Kannon bosatsu, right? That's the Japanese word for Avalokiteshvara bodhisattva, right? That's one of the kind of cosmic bodhisattvas of the tradition. That is one of the bodhisattvas in the Pure Land, right? We're told, right? Amida Buddha with kannon and seishi, right? Avalokiteshvara mahastamaprapta, representing compassion and wisdom. Kannon, kan is the same kan as in kachikan. Remember I said kachikan for values. Kachi is value, kan is view. It has an aspect of seeing. So kan in kannon is that first one, to see or perceive. On, sounds. Kannon. And so the way it's interpreted is kannon is the bodhisattva that perceives the cries of the suffering masses of those in samsara. Right? So kannon hears the cries of people in pain and suffering and responds. Right? So there's another aspect of how this response to the suffering of those of us who are unawakened, suffering in samsara. Right? So I think that's really neat. And there's actually a really cool 1,000-armed kannon, if you've ever seen that, Senju kannon. And it's a standing statue of kannon, often with 11 heads and 1,000 arms, right? Spreading out around. And each hand has an eye in it. So there, that like visual aspect, right? 11 heads to see in all directions, and even these hands, right? To see everything, this total awareness, right? And because awareness probably of wisdom, but also compassion, right? To be able to respond to beings. So that wisdom and compassion is kind of where I got be aware, be kind. To be honest, be aware I got from AAA Life. I think that's where I started. I got to give props to Matsumoto Sensei, right? My teacher. AAA Life just blew my mind. I was like, this is great, right? And then fun too, right? One of my ministerial colleagues, Reverend Sugahara, right? And this be kind could also be from, it's related to that friendliness, friendship, right? But this awareness for me, awareness and kindness, this be aware and be kind, I want to encourage people to aspire for wisdom and compassion. That's the ultimate goal of Mahayana Buddhists, is to become a Buddha. Become a Buddha so that you can help people too. We try to help in our daily life, I think, right? There's times when we just can't help it. We see someone suffering, whether it's a family member or a friend or a stranger or an animal, and we want to try to help. But so often we're limited. We're unable to help. We're unable to truly help. Right? Yeah, I'll share the story. I was driving home one night from a gig. When you play, part of why I was happy to leave music, this is back in my 20s, right? I was happy to leave music because it's not easy. You got to show up at the gig at like 6, 7 o'clock. You don't go on till 10 or 11 if you're lucky, right? And so you get there 5 or 6 o'clock, fight the traffic, unload all your gear, set it up, and then wait. You wait for like 3 or 4 hours, play the gig. Hopefully it's good. Then you finish to the adoring fans. Thank you, everyone, right? And then they all leave because you got to take your gear down and get home. Right? So I'm driving back after the gig. It's 2 a.m, right? driving the back streets. This is when I still lived at home in Massachusetts with my parents. So it's in the suburbs. And I'm driving a back street, nobody, it's a small 2-lane road. And all of it, I would stick to the speed limit, 25 miles an hour on this little stretch. And then glad I was, because there's a giant raccoon that's been hit by a car right in the middle of the road. So I got out and it was still alive. And it was big. And I didn't get too close, right? Because wild animals. And I wanted to, I was like, should I back up my car and run over it again and try and kill it? I considered going to the police station to tell them. But finally, I just left. I just left it. You know, there's nothing I could do. It's just a raccoon, right? Dumpster, what do you call it? Dumpster rat. You know, they're pests, they're vermin, but they're living beings, right? And thinking back now, that's Buddha's compassion. Not because I'm a Buddha, but it's Buddha's compassion was awakened in me, I think, right? Nothing about me. It doesn't say, I'm not saying I'm a great person, right? To me, it's something awakened in me by Buddha. And I was learning about Buddhism at this time too, right? So I was studying and on my own and everything. So I can see that experience as part of my experience as a Buddhist, as a fledgling Buddhist, right? And that's related to this be kind. But be aware too, be aware of your limitations, right? Can I go out and save every animal? No, I certainly can't. There are people that try, and I really, really appreciate them. I had another animal experience a couple of years ago. I came out, it was, what did I have to do that day? I remember Taniguchi sensei, Zuike Taniguchi sensei was retiring. And so his retirement thing was in the afternoon. And I had to do, I think it was like a seminar or something. I don't remember, but I had something I had to get to in the morning. So I come out and I look and I see something's different on my neighbor's house against their wall. And I look and it's moving. It's black and maybe white and it's moving. And I realize it's skunks. It's baby skunks. So they're squeaking and they're squirming around and they look, it was cool that morning. I think it was like in March or May, but it was, you know, Bay Area is still, you know, it's probably like in the 50s. So they're squirming around. Where's mom? Right? Something's wrong. So I come back, I tell my wife, I tell the neighbors, and I get a box. I look online what to do when you find baby skunks, and I got a box and a towel, and I got a bottle of I warmed up some water and put it in a bottle and put that under the towel, and I have gloves, the thick work gloves, you know. So I went and I transferred the babies into the box with the water. I didn't get squirted, right? And told the neighbors. They called someone, or I think I called and then they called. We called a couple people who couldn't do anything. And one of them said, oh, there's a East Bay skunk expert. We'll call him. So I had to leave. And it turns out he came, got the skunks. A couple months later, this guy has like 12, 15 skunks at his house. They don't spray him. They know he's their mom in a way, right? And so, and we got to release him back into the wild. Right. So that was a positive chance when I was able to help. This time I didn't give up. I didn't just turn my back, right? I was able, but it wasn't just me. It was me, my wife, my neighbors, right? And then all these organizations. It took a whole bunch of people to help these skunks. And yet we still got to let them go. Free, free, set them free, right? The Sting song, right? If you love someone, set them free, right? And so let these skunks out into the wild. That's what we got to do. Let the kids out of the nest, right? So we don't know if they survived. I wish, you know, part of me wishes they would come back and come up to me like pet them. I know I can't do that, right? And I know they're wild animals, so you got to let them go. You know, this is a different story, right? Where I was able to help, and yet still also got to let go. Right? We can't just coddling them for their entire life isn't going to help anybody. I'll add one more animal thing. banana slugs. This came up at a meeting, IBS meeting. Someone who lives in Santa Cruz brought up banana slugs. And she said something about, if you see a banana slug, you're supposed to kiss it. Right? I don't know if you've heard that. I never heard that before. And then someone else in the meeting said, I was really surprised when I heard if you see a banana slug, you're supposed to eat it. And the professor was like, no, you're not supposed to eat it. You're supposed to kiss it. And I think it comes from like a sports team or something. But I looked online and it said, don't kiss banana slugs because they can't handle the germs on your lips, or if you have lip balm or the chemicals. And they said, don't even touch them. Don't even touch a banana slug because your sweat might have salt in it, right? Or chemicals on, like, we don't think about that stuff. But awareness of the deep impact we can have without even realizing. I don't have Buddha wisdom. I'm not aware most of the time of my impact. I wouldn't touch a slug personally, banana slug. But some people like them, right? And so they want to touch it. They want to see what it feels like. But I think if you realize by touching it, you could hurt it. You could kill it, right? That some people wouldn't care. Some people would try and kill it, right? But if that compassion is awakened in you, right? Compassion without wisdom can be a problem too, huh? If you just have compassion, but you don't have wisdom, you might think you're helping, but you're actually hurting. What if you thought, oh, the banana slug in the road, I'm going to pick it up so I don't run it over. But by picking it up, you hurt it. Right? So I think that this awareness of our limitations is so important. Shinran talks about it, or is reported as talking about it in Tanisho. He talks about compassion. I forget what chapter, this is off the top of my head, but they're short chapters, so you should be able to find it easily in your collected works of Shinran, which you probably have on your bookshelf. Find a record in Lament of Divergences at the back of volume 1. And he says, small compassion is compassion where, that's all that I have. If I have any compassion, it's only small compassion. But if I truly think about it, I'm unable to help others as I wish. The Mahayana path is to awaken great compassion, daihi, right? Great compassion. And that's Buddha's compassion. Then I can help all beings equally. I'll say middle way even there, because we might then say, well, my compassion's only small compassion, so I'm not going to help anybody. I don't think that's the answer either. I think that's an extreme, right? We want to try and help. We want to try and respond to this call when I'm moved to try and help, with recognition of my limitations, right? That I am limited, that I don't have wisdom, but I want to try and do my best. Right? So, see, middle way again and again and again to me. Right? That every time we look at something, it looks maybe, could I say just this? Isn't there one thing all Buddhists could agree to? Yeah, why even bother? Right? Because as soon as we find something, we might find someone that doesn't. And if I just hold that up, this is the one thing I believe. Really? Right? I think that becomes inflexible. That's what I like about the middle way, is it's, I think, a very flexible doctrine. And it requires you to have awareness, keep learning, keep listening to the Dharma, right? Keep looking and listening to the world around you. Keep looking and listening within, right? Looking at yourself, listening to yourself is important, right? But a balance between all of those, huh? Okay, I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint. Boom. So be aware, wisdom, be kind, compassion, be yourself. So that's where I think there is kind of that could be jarring, huh? Between these two, between be aware, be kind, and then all of a sudden be yourself. And kind of like I said before, what if I'm not aware? What if I'm not kind? So maybe let's take this. Are we going to take a break or what? I don't feel the need right now. I'm more than happy to keep going, but I want to make sure everyone's okay.
Yeah, you could keep going, Sensei, if you wish. That's fine.
Yeah, let's keep going. Okay. It's all connected, right? I'll take this as an opportunity to move on to that other phase, right? Of the more three poison style of looking at values, right? And maybe what we might consider Buddhist not values is one way we could maybe put it, right? One that I was thinking of is indulgence. Right? I don't think anyone would say I'm a Buddhist and I'm following, my practice is indulgence. I indulge in overeating. I indulge in food. I indulge in jewelry. I indulge in cars, right? I indulge in houses. I got 5 houses. I got them in 5 houses in 3 states. I got a giant one in Miami, and I got, right? That would be weird, I think, right? If you met a Buddhist who was like, that's what I do as a Buddhist, you'd be like, I'm not sure where you learned that. That doesn't sound like a Buddhist value, right? Indulgence. But if I say, don't indulge, is that right either? Is to say that indulgence is automatically a bad thing and you shouldn't do it, I think might be going a little too far. Certainly from a middle way perspective, right? Because certainly overindulgence, I think we could see as a poison because it's not good for you. You're going to get gout, right? If you're drinking too much and eating rich food all the time, you're going to get gout and it doesn't feel good. I'm lucky. I know at least 2 ministers that have gout, right? And so I'm fortunate so far. I'm not saying my lifestyle isn't gout headed, but I don't have it yet, but I understand it's very uncomfortable, right? And so overindulgence just on a just everyday level is something you want to be aware of because it might cause you harm. Right? But isn't a little bit of indulgence okay? Indulge in ice cream every now and again. Not every day. Although I have a member who he said he eats vanilla ice cream. Not anymore. He ate vanilla ice cream every day for dessert after dinner and didn't seem to suffer any ill effects until recently. And he finally had to stop. But I'm not saying every day, but I think, every now and again, ice cream, okay, right? Every now and again, prime rib, I don't know. What would you indulge in if you had the chance, right? My wife and I watch a lot of Food Channel for some reason, and we don't cook really. We're not good cooks. It's just something to watch, to have on. We don't even really watch it that closely. But one of the shows I was watching, the whole theme was cheat day. Right? So you're watching your diet, you're watching your calories all week, and you get a cheat day, right? You get to cheat on your diet. And so if you can only imagine what comes out on the show, right? Giant banana split thing or whatever, right? But it's okay in moderation. I think that's a kind of middle way view in itself, right? That we're not trying to be monks, right? And we want to try to be healthy, but every now and again, it's okay to maybe indulge in something. So there, again, to set down hard and fast rules, I find problematic. For Shinshu, certainly, maybe even for Buddhism, right? As soon as we set a rule, we're attaching to it. So I just want to introduce this, one of my favorite phrases from Sugihara Sensei, and it's not the best phrase, but no atarimae. If you have to understand Japanese, right? No atarimae. Atarimae means it's obvious, of course. No, nothing's obvious in Buddhism. You can't take anything as if, no, I know this is true. I'm going to hang on to it. That turns into attachment, right? And, from a cultural point of view, of course, atarimae, come on. You don't kick a book with your foot. You shouldn't have the book on the floor in the first place. How could you move the book aside with your foot? That's a Japanese value. Feet are dirty, and we should respect books. Why would you put a book on the floor? The ground is dirty too. And why would you touch it with your foot? But as an American, that's not atarimae. I've never heard that before. It's utilitarian Americanism, right? Just move it. My foot was closest. I'm not going to bend down. I just need to move it out of the way because I got to do something else, right? And when I did it, my wife was like, "What are you doing?" Because for her, atarimae, you don't move stuff with your foot. Shitsure. That's rude. Why would you do that? Of course you wouldn't do that. But we moved to a different culture, and all of a sudden, everything that's atarimae, everything that is obvious, isn't anymore. This is where I feel like this is really important, because I live in America. I live in the United States of America, which is not monocultural. There's not just one culture in America. I don't want to drag in trolls that are going to tell me, no, America is supposed to be white and Christian. But no, white is fine. I'm half white. I'm like 13th, 14th generation white Anglo-Saxon, right? I have no problem with that, but it's not the only culture of America. And Christianity, fine, no problem. As long as you're not causing a murder, as long as you're not forcing your views on someone else and harming people, I have no problem with it, right? But it's one religion among many. I'm Buddhist, and as an American, freedom of religion, I should be able to be Buddhist. Right? So that's where I feel so fortunate to have encountered both cultures, America and Japan, to have encountered a bunch of different religions when I was younger, and then to be able to get into Buddhism. But I also need to open my mind even more to other religions, to other viewpoints, to even more cultures than just whatever American, white American maybe, and Japanese, whatever that is, right? Because even those are too broad. What is American culture? American culture has so many influences, right? It's influenced by so many things. African American culture is such a deep part of general American culture, right? And so I think that's where awareness, right? To have this awareness of these different cultures and realize, yeah, no atarimae. If I'm going to say, no, why could you do that? Of course it's like this. Someone else from another viewpoint, from another experience, that might not make sense. And I got to be open to that. Be kind. Doesn't that seem like obvious? Doesn't that just totally make sense? Be kind. But can we find situations when maybe not? When maybe a commandment of be kind, you should be nice. What if by being nice, I'm actually being oppressed from expressing dissent from someone who's hurting me, right? What if I'm one of those examples is misogyny. Unfortunately, American culture has a lot of misogyny in it, right? Misogyny is hatred of women, right? But women are also often taught, you should be nice, smile, don't speak up, right? These cultural values which come from different sources. It might be more of a Japanese style or it might be more American style, right? But my understanding is sometimes women are taught, you got to be nice. You can't express whatever, right? And that's where I think there's kind of backlash to that, because in that case, it's not a positive thing. It becomes a negative thing. So maybe not being nice can be a value. Maybe I shouldn't have to be nice when someone is mean to me. Maybe I don't need to just shut up and take it because I'm this or that, I'm a woman, or I'm whatever, right? Maybe, no, it's okay to express anger. So this is where we need to be flexible. And this is where middle way comes in to me, because middle way allows me to look at these values, right? Whatever they are, but especially for me, Buddhist values, right? Look at those and also be critical of them. Also be flexible about them. Right? And realize, yeah, no atarimae. It's not, these aren't givens. These aren't obvious. There might be cases when the situation might be different, and I shouldn't cling to these understandings. Before I move on, I was thinking with austerity, indulgence, what's the opposite? And one is austerity, right? Rather than indulging, maybe I should adopt a life of austerity. Actually, there's another kind of version. Minimalism is kind of a new movement, right? Marie Kondo or Marie Kondo, right? And her whole thing about cleaning and getting rid of stuff and spark joy and all that stuff, right? We got really popular a while back, right? Of this kind of minimalism, right? And so that's a viewpoint too, huh? But I think that needs to be taken in balance too, right? Because you hear stories of people who listen to that and throw away everything, but they throw away letters, right? They throw away stuff that maybe for the family would have been good, and maybe it goes a little too far. I don't know, right? So again, I like, one thing I learned from academia is that critical lens, and that doesn't mean to criticize. It doesn't mean negative necessarily. Critical thinking. Isn't that what we're supposed to teach in schools? I don't think it's taught, but now, and I don't know if I really learned it when I was a kid, but critical thinking. Look at stuff. Don't be afraid to think. Another song, think, it ain't illegal yet. It's Funkadelic, right? That you can think about it. Don't just be ignorant. Don't be willfully ignorant. Well, yeah, I'll say that. I'll go out on a limb, say that. Don't be willfully ignorant. Think, you can do it. Right? To try and think about things. Don't just, oh, you're telling me it's that way? Okay. Yes, sir. I understand. I'll do whatever you say. That's how we end up with totalitarian governments, right? No, think for yourself. Think about what's being said. You don't have to just follow the party line, political or otherwise, right? That's part of be aware. That's part of awareness, right? To not take things for granted, to not assume, but to be willing to think about things. So, in America, austerity, what? I'm not going to be, what is the government going to tell me that I need to adopt austerity in my lifestyle? No way. I'm not going to do what the government says. Hey, they did it, 60, 70 years ago, World War II. I don't know how many people know this. Some of you might have even been alive, right? But I've seen my dad's family's ration coupons, the ration coupon book, right? There were times in American history when, yeah, there was government mandated austerity, right? It was a different time, huh? Since then, go out and buy as much as you can, right? You got to help the economy or whatever, right? Or you need this to be happy. Or you're not happy, buy more stuff, right? But that wasn't the narrative during World War II, right? World War II had government mandated austerity, huh? So this is coming up right now, right? The government says I need to be vaccinated and I need to show my vaccine card. They can't tell me what to do. I actually hear that kind of. It's interesting. And yet I'm vaccinated and I got my card. And if someone asks, I'm going to show it. Right. But think, right? Think about this stuff. But don't only listen to one voice. That's another thing. I'm dispensing my wisdom, right? The things I've learned. Don't just listen to one voice. Search out other voices. Listen to both sides or multiple sides. You're not aware if you're only listening to one voice and following what they say. I think we really need to take on these different viewpoints. So there's two other 3 poisons style not values that I have on my list. One is arrogance, and the other is meanness. Right? Being mean. Be kind. Don't be mean. Right? So maybe I'll do that one first, because I think that's an important one. So this is related to be kind. I personally consider myself a pretty nice person. And I get feedback. Yeah, I'm pretty nice, right? I'm a nice guy. People like my smile, right? I try to be helpful, right? I'm a Buddhist minister, right? I must be a nice guy. In my early years as a minister, I encountered some ministers that could be pretty snarky. Right? They could be kind of mean sometimes. I even had them yelling at me sometimes, right? And I always kind of wondered about that. Right? I was kind of like, wow, this minister's style is interesting because they can be kind of a jerk. I'm not naming names, okay? But or they'd tell me, hey, you should be more like this. Right? And whatever, okay, right? But so meanness seems to be a not value of Buddhism, right? I don't think, well, I don't think that Buddhism would say be mean. But I had an interesting experience recently, this past year. Part one of my members can be really mean. He can be really nice too, but he can be pretty mean. He says he gets kind of mad and puts people on the spot in meetings. He can be kind of arrogant and put people down during, like, after seminars or whatever without realizing it, I think, right? But he can say some hurtful stuff. And ticks me off, right? Makes me mad. Almost to the point of saying something about it, but I haven't yet, right? I haven't said anything yet, but I've definitely noticed it, and I've definitely composed the email in my head multiple times, right? I've visualized the meeting, the in-person meeting, face-to-face meeting, and how would I say this? Because you can't just be like, hey, you're a jerk, because that doesn't go well. You got to phrase it in a certain way to get someone to hear it, right? So, this went on for a month or two. This is, a few months ago. And then one day I was in my backyard doing some yard work, and I realized that's me. I can do that too. Whoa. Oh my gosh, wait a second. I just did that in the meeting last week. A minister's meeting, like to my colleagues, my district colleagues. We were recording. This was for National Council. If you went to National Council, I don't know if you saw, but the sutra chanting sounded like a whole bunch of people, but we all recorded our parts separately, right? Because we can't be in person together. But on Zoom, you can't chant together because of the lag, right? The time lag. So we recorded our parts separately. And so each minister, we traded off being Chosho, right? Being the chanting leader. So we did the recordings, and I'm a musician. I've got a good ear. I've got tools, pitch pipes, keyboards, right? I can tell what pitch is being chanted. And one of the ministers, their thing, I listened to it and they were like, was it okay? This is in the meeting with all the ministers, like 6 or 7 of us. And he's like, so was that okay? And I was like, well, you chanted really low. Your voice was like really, really low. It's supposed to be E, actually, Hyojo, right? But you were like down like an A or something. And afterwards I was like, what a jerk. Why did I say that? Why did I just keep your mouth shut? It's okay, right? It doesn't matter. Why? Why did I feel the need to do that? Even as soon as I said it, I was like, shut up, shut up, shut up. But too late, already done. So when I'm getting mad at my member for being mean, maybe it's ticking me off because I see myself. I mean, that's just psychology, right? Where the things that you get that tick you off the most about other people, you can often find in yourself if you take the time to look and get beyond the denial and the self-preservation instincts, right? So it just blew my mind. I was like, oh, wow, that's me. The good thing was I realized if I do end up talking to this person, it's going to go a lot better when I fess up to my own arrogance and meanness, right? If I'm just coming down from on high, right? You're too mean. You need to be more like this. It's not going to work. They're not going to hear it. They're going to be like, who are you? But if I can acknowledge, we both share this. Maybe we both need to work on it and look at it. I think it'll go a lot better, huh? Now, here's the crazy thing. I figured out where I got it. I figured out where it came from. It's my mom. I don't know if I've told this story to you. I tell it during Shotsky sometimes. I was living at home in my 20s after college for a few years, before I moved out to Berkeley to go to IBS. And I had a friend. He was a hippie. He is a hippie. To follow the Dead, Grateful Dead, didn't do well in school, living at home, lost his license for DUI, all this stuff, right? And so he came over one day. His father had died, right? Like a week before or something. And my parents knew, I told them and stuff. So one day he comes over. This is like a week after his dad dies. And my mom goes, oh, I heard your father died. He must have been so disappointed in you. And both of us were like, what? Did I hear that right? Did my mom just say that? And afterwards, I talked to him and he's like, yeah, I heard your mom say that. I thought that was kind of weird. I was like, yeah, my mom's weird, whatever. Don't worry about it. Right. But I was just blown away. I was like, how could she say something like that? And then like a week later, she comes up to me. She goes, I don't know why I said that. And I was like, yeah, mom, that was kind of out of control. Why would you say to someone whose father just died, he must have been disappointed in you? Why would you say something like that? Why would you say, yeah, the chanting wasn't too good. You're way off pitch. I'm 50 and I finally figured this out. Finally realized that. So my whole life, have I been doing this? Can I look back at my life and find this mean streak? I can go on other songs. She got a mean streak, right? It's a great term for song lyrics, heavy metal song lyrics, right? But this meanness, whoa, I saw it in myself. And then just today, driving along, I was reminded how when I was in a band back in my 20s, I got a sticker that said mean people stink, but it didn't say stink. It was another S word, S-U-C, you can figure out the other letters, right? I've had that sticker and I put it on my kind of diary to remind myself. So even then I had an awareness that I could be me. And thinking back now, a lot of it was in service of comedy, right? And our comedy, actually our culture has a mean streak, right? That American comedy, I'll say North American comedy, because a lot of the times the comedians are Canadian. Did you know that? Right? A lot of our beloved comedians are from Canada. But a lot of American comedy or North American comedy is making fun of people. Okay? Whether it's Joe Mama jokes or Big Bang Theory, right? It's kind of passé now, but when it was really popular, everyone was watching that show. But if you think about it, everyone's making fun of everyone else. And I think that's a value, an American value. It's okay to be mean if it's funny, right? That somehow comedy and being funny is really important and there should be no limitations placed on it, right? And so, wow, space shuttle jokes. I remember when I was a kid, right? When the space shuttle blew up, jokes started appearing immediately, right? The tsunami, May 11, right? The guy, I can't think of his name, but he was the voice of the Aflac duck. He got fired the next day because he made tsunami jokes, right? So interesting, huh? So then do we say, don't be mean? We're going to have rules against meanness. You can't make this kind of humor. You can't say certain things. I don't know. I don't have an answer, right? Are we going to legislate this stuff? Are we going to do these things where we live a certain set of values because the government tells us to, because there are rules that say we have to? I don't think that's going to work. First of all, right? Second of all, what else are they going to tell me to do? Right? So this balance, right? And so this goes back for me between be aware, be kind, and be yourself. That's another insight that I had. I'm going to work on trying not to be a jerk, but is that going to work? Is trying not to be a jerk going to make me less of a jerk? It might not work at all. I don't think it's going to work. Because a lot of the times when you're sitting there like, don't say it, don't say it, don't say it. Blah, oh, I said it. Right? When you're trying, okay, yeah, I know I can't do this. And then it pops out. Oh, I can think of examples. I'm not going to share them of my own life, right? When it's like, you say what should not be said. And maybe it's because you shouldn't. And that's just something in us. It comes out. Right? So my path is I want to try to be aware. I'm going to try to listen to this voice telling me, try to be aware. Try to be kind. Have that as the goals, right? But not as my practice. That's not my practice as a Shin Buddhist. My practice, I feel, as a Shin Buddhist is recite the Nembutsu, Namu Amida Butsu, reflect on my life, try and hear the call of Amida, and live my life. That's where authenticity comes in. Don't sit here thinking, I'm not good enough. I'm a bad person. I should be something else. I should be like someone else. I should be something other than myself. That's not an authentic life. That's what's that going to be like? That this authenticity is, and that's where this be yourself comes in. Right? Shinran shares a story in the letters, and I'm going to talk about it tomorrow in the Japanese talk at least. He's writing a letter to a follower, and he says, I remember when I was with Honen, my teacher, his teacher, right, Honen Shonin, people would come to visit, right, to talk to the Shonin, to talk to Honen. And sometimes people would come in and they're peasants. They're illiterate, no learning whatsoever, right? And they would leave, and Honen, he said, I would remember seeing Honen smile. He's smiling, and he would say, their birth in the Pure Land is settled. Wonderful. These people entrust in the Buddha. They've been transformed. They've got it. And then someone would come in who was learned, skilled in letters, right? Obviously literate, educated, maybe even with high social status. And he leaves, and Honen would say, I'm worried about his birth. He thinks he's got it, but it's all up here. It's all ego. Right? And then Honen says, people of the Pure Land tradition attain birth by becoming their foolish selves. Wow. Right? So I'm not supposed to be a good person. So I'm not supposed to let go of all my attachments. I'm not supposed to try never to be angry. Nope. That's not the way I see it. Of course, you're not supposed to indulge in anger. You're not supposed to indulge in desire and greed and attachment. But trying to cut them off isn't the way either. Become your foolish self. Can I even do that without Amida Buddha's help? This to me is just really profound. So that's where my be yourself comes in, right? That it's not just be kind and be aware, be a good person, be smart, right? No, it's be yourself. Live your life. I guess part of it is make mistakes, right? Because this also implies self-reflection, right? Reflecting on the Dharma and reflecting on myself and my actions. But yeah, so this be yourself, this Shinran, and if you want to question me on it, let's look at Shinran himself. Right? We call him Shinran Shonin in the old translations, right? In old BCA materials from the 50s and 60s, it says Saint Shinran, right? Oh, so humble. What an exemplar of Buddhism. But he calls himself Gutoku Shinran. Gu is foolish. It's the gu that Shinran's of Honen is talking about. Gunin. It's the foolish being. Orokani. It's this technical term actually for foolishness. Right? And toku is stubble-headed. Right? So even though he was a monk, right, as a young man, but then gets exiled and defrocked, and then is reinstated as a monk, right? And you look at the pictures of him older, and he looks kind of like a monk. But you see, he's got hair. He's got like short, stubbly hair. right? He's not keeping up the precepts. And he calls himself later too, Hiso Hizoku, neither monk nor layperson. Right? So isn't that interesting? Oh, there's another example of middle way and Shinshu. Huh. Not a monk, not following this monastic path, but not just living everyday secular life either. Something in between, huh? One of the questions I have is, he calls himself that, but is that maybe the ideal for everyone? Not only ministers, but even a layperson, right? That it's not to indulge in secular life. Yeah, live your life, but also responding to the call of Amida, being turned towards Amida, being turned towards the Pure Land. No longer wandering aimlessly in samsara, right? But instead with direction, with a path, right? The Pure Land path in this case, Jodomo, this gateway of the Pure Land. So arrogance, I'm not going to do the arrogance one, but Shinran uses the term. Shinran talks all the time about one section in Kyogyo Shinsho, lost in, I think I have it on here. Oh, I don't have it on here. Lost in the, or sunk in the oceans of lust and lost in the mountains of fame, right? So his desires, unconquerable. How do we know this? He got married and had kids. He's a monk, but he got married. It's really interesting, huh? When people hold up Shinran and they say he's a great monk and a great exemplar, he's a terrible monk. He got married. He broke the rule of celibacy. And that's such a core part of who he is. And Eshinni is so important, Kakushinni, right? That it's no longer a man's world. It's a man's world. No, it's not, James Brown, right? Women are important too, right? And women in our tradition are so important. And that's one of the wonderful things about Shinshu, is that it's not for only men or only smart people or only people of a certain age, right? It's for everyone. So, Shinran, as having these desires, I think he perceives himself as arrogant, right? It's so funny how people say Shinran as some exemplar of humility, but if you read his writings, he sees himself as really arrogant, right? He talks to him in I think it's Wasan's, he mentions, I take pride in knowing the meanings of the kanji for good and evil, right? But I don't really know it. And then these illiterate people come in that can't read kanji at all, but they get it, right? That learning intelligence is not enough is one aspect, right? But the other aspect is Shinran sees himself as arrogant till late in his life. So in a way, it puts the onus on you, because you can't say, I can't be like that. I had a friend who was thinking of becoming a minister. And I remember him saying, this is when Reverend Kusada was still alive. I don't know if you remember Reverend Haruyoshi Kusada. He was at Berkeley Temple for a long time and taught at IBS, was integral to IBS early on. And he taught the chanting class. So several generations of ministers learned chanting from him, myself included, right? But I remember my friend saying, I could never get Shinjin. I haven't even talked about Shinjin, right? But I could never have this Shinshu experience. I could never be like Kusada sensei. I just couldn't be like him. And I was like, you've totally missed the point. It's not about being someone else. It has nothing to do with being a certain way. It has nothing to do with that. But I didn't know be yourself at that point yet. I was still learning, right? But that's a mistake to think, I can't do it. That's why we have the minister. And so I'm going to get the power from the minister, right? The minister is going to make everything happen. No, you have to do it yourself. And you can, because it has nothing to do with learning. It has nothing to do with ability. It has nothing to do with gender. It has nothing to do with any of that stuff. Age, right? This Amida Buddha accepts all of us. Amida Buddha embraces all of us with wisdom and compassion. And you know what? Here's the other thing. This is why be yourself works. Because Amida Buddha accepts you as you are. sono mama, right? You don't have to be a certain way. You don't have to be something you're not to be given entrance into the Pure Land, right? Amida Buddha is not saying, stop, you were a mean person, you can't come in. No, Amida Buddha accepts you as you are. I'm embraced as I am, with this meanness, right? With this arrogance, with these desires. Right? Amida Buddha accepts me, embraces me. Amida Buddha embraces me because of those things. If I could fix myself, I wouldn't need Jodo Shinshu, right? If I could do Zen, I could sit there, sit for hours and hours and hours, and somehow be an enlightened master, right? Maybe I wouldn't even need Buddhism. I could awaken by myself. Not me, right? I'm a foolish being, so I need Amida. And Amida Buddha made it for people such as myself. Foolish people who can't master this stuff. But there again, I always worry about this. By talking about this, am I encouraging someone to do bad stuff? Am I encouraging someone to be a jerk? Right? Am I encouraging someone to indulge in their desires? This always in the back of my mind. Because when I was thinking about my meanness, my ego, my arrogance, I realized maybe I can be a more effective chairperson of the Ministers Association like that, because I can just be a jerk in meetings. You know, I just say stuff that maybe another person wouldn't say. Right? And maybe sometimes it's hurtful, but maybe it needs to be said. Right? So part of me is thinking, yeah, I'm a jerk. I'm going to own it. Right? Am I going too far? Am I going over the edge into licensed evil? Right? Where I'm indulging in this? And that's a fine line. Right? Such a fine line. Once again, middle way. Right? The middle way sounds like a nice broad road, but it's like a knife edge, I think. Right? It's the knife edge that it's so easy to just fall this way or that way. In the parable of the two rivers and the white path, right? That white path is only like an inch wide. And it talks about the water, it's the fire in the water is greed and anger, right? And it's overlapping the path, it's covering the path. And yet walk that path. You're going to get wet, you're going to get burned, you're going to be a jerk, you're going to want stuff. It's okay, as long as we keep walking the path, right? Keep saying the Nembutsu, keep reflecting. And I think with the AAA life as one possible guide, fun as another guide, the 3 Bs hopefully as another guide, okay? That these are just acronyms, right? They're fun. They're stuff that myself and other ministers have come up with for us to try and understand the teachings, because this is not an easy teaching. Wouldn't it be easier if I could be kind and gentle to every living thing and protect all who are weaker than myself? If I could always think pure and beautiful words, say pure and beautiful words, think pure and beautiful thoughts, and do pure and beautiful deeds, wouldn't that be great if I could do that? Personally, I can't. Right? And so I'm following a kind of a different path of Nembutsu, where those are kind of part of my goals, right? Part of my ideals, but also with these recognitions, this recognition of my limitations. So we're coming up on the half-hour mark. So in my talk tomorrow, I go into it a little more detail. There's 9 things, AAA life, fun, and 3 Bs. But they overlap. And so one of the my takeaways from that is none of them are complete. But you know what? No Buddhist teaching is complete, except for us, Namo Amida Butsu. That's the only one that's complete. Namo Amida Butsu contains all the virtues of Amida Buddha, right? So for us, if it's one thing only, Namo Amida Butsu. As soon as we start breaking it down, right? If we want to do 4 Noble Truths, where's impermanence? Where's interconnectedness? Where's gratitude? They're not in there, right? If we want to do 6 paramitas, where's this or that, right? Any teaching, Buddha did, because Buddha didn't give one teaching. He gave 1,000,000 teachings, or 84,000 if we want to put it that way, right? So recognizing these limitations. But if we were to break down those 9, AAA life, fun, and the 3 B's. Okay, here we go. Ready? Awareness, kindness, authenticity, gratitude, nembutsu. 5. Because they overlap. There's 9, but I think they overlap into those 5. And I didn't talk about gratitude so much. I'm going to talk about that at the Coast District Conference. So maybe tune in then. But I hope, I don't know. I was going to say, I hope it shows in a way that I've come to these realizations about myself because of the Buddha Dharma, because of Amida Buddha. Right? And yet I also realize most of my day is very little gratitude, despite the fact I have so much to be grateful for. Right? So that's another thing to be aware of. Right? It's part of who I am. It's part of how I was raised and everything, right? But to have that awareness, this is something you shouldn't be taking for granted, right? And realize that. So thank you so much for, I can go on for hours and hours and hours. I was kind of worried, am I going to have enough to talk about? And I shouldn't worry, because I could, I never have trouble talking, I guess. But I want to really thank you for this opportunity. It's, these give me a chance, these seminars and talks give me a chance to think things through more and more and more, right? My thoughts are always changing. That's one of the great things about impermanence in a way, right? Impermanence is change. So to realize, that's the other thing too. Don't feel like I don't know enough about Buddhism. I'm not a good Buddhist. Nobody knows everything about Buddhism except Buddha. It's okay. Everyone has limitations. So don't feel like that's a problem, right? Learn what you can. And the most important thing is not to learn it here, to live it. By living it is how you'll truly learn it. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. And, okay, 11:29. Why don't I conclude my talk? And I know the seminar was opened with Nembutsu, but maybe we can end my talk with Nembutsu. So thank you so much, everyone. Trying to live, whether it's the AAA life, having fun, or living the 3 B's, I hope we can live with more awareness, kindness, and authenticity, with deep gratitude. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda. Namanda. Okay.
Thank you so much, Sensei, for sharing these wonderful insights with us this morning. And now we're going to have opportunity for questions. Could I ask Reverend Turner,